My name is Delia Grace and I'm a veterinary epidemiologist, and I first came to ILRI in 2002 when I was being interviewed for a doctorate in an ILRI project in West Africa. So I came for the interview. I was interviewed by John McDermott and Tom Randolph, and I'm happy to say that I was successful and that I was awarded the position, which was to go and study trypanoside resistance in West Africa. So it was just over 3 years on that project, and I was working on trypanoside resistance, but with the emphasis on the farm level, what farmers were doing and how this was contributing to the problem, and what we could do to help farmers make other choices and change their behaviour so that they were still able to treat their animals, but they were getting less trypanoside resistance. After that, I then came to ILRI as a joint appointment with Cornell University, working on food safety. ILRI had done some work on food safety. In fact, from a veterinary public health perspective, was the first work ILRI did on food safety, looking at milk, meat, the classical zoonosis. And then they had done some really interesting work which was around why food safety as a constraint to market access. So as a veterinarian, we tend to think of food safety as a problem which we want to solve, and the people in ILRI were more coming from the perspective of that worrying about food safety was a problem that they wanted to solve because it was blocking smallholder access to markets. So that was kind of interesting and a kind of a different way of thinking about a problem. And I think then when I came, the emphasis was more food safety as a constraint. So this was the start of a new program, looking at food safety as a constraint to human health and development in the broadest sense. So not only blocking people from getting to markets, but also sickening and killing them. And that was an interesting work. So the last 5 years then were very interesting because we saw this dedicated group which was looking at, for the first time, at human health and nutrition and the intersection with livestock. We saw that group being closed down because it was decided that this was not relevant to the CGIR. And then we saw a new group, like a phoenix coming from the ashes, which was completely focused on human health and nutrition. And this was not just ILRI, but the other centres coming together under this process of change with the CGIR has been going through, that the centres come together to work on fewer, bigger problems and have more impact. So one of these programs is on agriculture for human health and nutrition, which has got probably about half or over half of the program deals in nutrition, and that's being mainly led by IFPRI. And then about a quarter of the program deals with diseases, the diseases like food safety and zoonosis and other problems which are associated with agriculture, and that's now being led by ILRI. This is a demand-driven program in as much as there is growing consensus that the problems, the health-associated problems of agriculture cannot be solved by human health alone. So, but in the past, the approaches to these problems have been very top-down, very monosectoral. And while there is a space has now opened to bring in agricultural research to bear on problems of human health, it's not really clear what is the comparative advantage, what we should be doing, what we can do best, which other people can't do, and how, what and how we need to work. So at the moment there's been a lot of work around strategizing and planning and thinking and finding partnerships and seeing where we, in this kind of fairly crowded arena, where CGIR centres can be best placed and be most effective. We've already identified some key issues and key problems, which one of them being Rift Valley fever and emerging diseases, another being the whole area of food safety and informal markets, these markets where poor people buy and sell most of their food and where safety is not very high, but regulation and legislation has absolutely failed to have any impact on food safety. So we see that as a key area. But cross-cutting is this whole area of generating evidence, Because at the moment, although we know there are lots and lots of problems out there, we don't know which are the big ones, which are the small ones, which ones are there in certain circumstances and not in others, and what can be done about them. So coming up with that kind of evidence and those sorts of new tools, new metrics, which enable us to measure and to understand, will be a key part of this new programme.